I'd like to formally welcome all of you. My name is Jana Mori. I'm in the Career Center at Santa Barbara City College as a student program advisor. And we're here today for the Data Science Career Pathway panel. And thank you to everyone that showed up. It's really wonderful to see so many people interested in this profession. When Natalie Gables from the Computer Science Department at Santa Barbara City College first approached me about possibly having this event through Santa Barbara City College, I got really excited about it, but I did have to look up some information about data science. So data science is a career path that blends the exciting fields of computer science and math and big data. And it's essentially a job like being a detective, and it's great for those who have curious minds and who like to solve everyday puzzles. I looked up on Glassdoor, which is a job recruiting site that has really good salary data on it, to find out what a data scientist makes on average. And on average, a data scientist makes about $113,000 a year. Now it can range to the high 5 figures to the low 6 figures, but I thought that would be good information for some of you to take away today. Now, today we have the privilege of hearing from some students, and so far we have our UCSB students who are otherwise known as undergraduate fellows for the Central Coast Data Science Partnership, and we'll hear a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes. Today we'll be having some introductory information, and then we'll get to a panel that I'll moderate, and lastly we'll have some time for Q&A. So if you do have questions, go ahead and pop them into the chat, and we'll answer those at the end. The Harvard Business Review stated, "Meet the people who can coax treasure out of messy, unstructured data." And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to meet some people who are involved in making treasure out of messy, unstructured data, or supporting people in that field. Alex, I was wondering if you could go ahead and introduce yourself first.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Alex Franks. I'm an assistant professor at UCSB. I've been there for, I guess, 3.5 years now. It's going very fast. And I've been involved in teaching a lot of the data science courses. And I'm also one of the faculty mentors for the Data Science Fellowship that Jana mentioned. So I've been meeting with students like Anton, Zoe, and Ramtin, who you'll meet shortly. And starting early next year in January, we'll be working on data analysis projects in teams with industry partners as well as scientists at UCSB.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And for Cal Poly, we would have John Ventura. He's not here right now, but he is also part of the partnership with Alex and Natalie here. And Natalie, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I also wanted to, I know that Tim Robinson, he's also helping out with the data science, Central Coast Data Science Partnership. So I just want to make sure he was mentioned as well. I saw he's on the line as well. So Tim, do you want to say hi real quick too? Or?
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know if you...
Hi, I can say hi, but it's kind of a crazy household right now as everything is coming to its day's end and the kids are running around. So I'm going to try and stay on mute and just listen.
Okay, sounds
Thank
good.
You, Tim.
Thank you. All right, so I'm Natalie, and I am an instructor in computer science at City College. I'm also the department chair right now. And I'm very excited to be part or involved with the Central Coast Data Science Partnership, a partnership between UCSB, Cal Poly, CSU, San Bernardino, and Santa Barbara City College. So I'm excited. How I am involved in this partnership is that I'm going to be working on developing a first data science course that will be available at City College on the regular schedule of classes starting sometime next year, so either fall or spring. So keep an eye out for that course on the schedule next year. And actually what I'll do is before actually what I can do is share my the website, and then at the end of the panel presentation, we will also have links to all of this very great information, so that you can have access to that and take a minute to look over it yourself. So let
Do I
me
need to stop sharing before you share?
I think I can make you stop. So let me try it. Can everybody see the website?
Yeah.
All right. So the whole idea of the Central Coast Data Science Partnership, which is sponsored by the NSF, National Science Foundation, is to create and establish and train data scientists that are ready to go into industry right out of after a bachelor's degree. And there are definitely opportunities for Santa Barbara City College students, not only that there is a class coming next year, but even this week on Thursday at UCSB, there's an evening with Google, and there's a link on the website, so check it out. Here, if I bring it up, it's a data scientist from Google that will come and share her experience as a data scientist. And another thing to look out for is an opportunity to apply for a summer immersion research experience where you would work closely with faculty and other UCSB students this coming summer. So the applications will open sometimes in March. So I highly recommend to keep an eye out for those opportunities. And in addition to, if you're really excited about data science and won't be at City College next year, maybe you would like to start a data science course at UCSB. I also have information about cross-enrollment, possible cross-enrollment at UCSB in an introductory course. So if that is of interest to you, feel free to email me, and all that information will be on one of our last slides at the end of the panel discussion. So I guess I'm going to stop sharing. Do you want to put the, I guess I can first, before we continue with the panelists, I really just wanted to briefly introduce data science, because really today, more than ever, you see data everywhere. And but what does it mean, having data everywhere? It doesn't mean that there is useful information everywhere. And I think that's where data science comes in. It's basically to go from a lot of data to something that's useful that you can use to make a decision or to learn something from the world. So I like to describe it as learning more about the world by exploring and analyzing data, but using computational tools and statistical skills. And again, this definition is very broad, so it's really relevant to anyone, with anyone from people from different backgrounds, from different disciplines, with different interests. And because you can really look at any kind of data, it doesn't matter what the data is. It could be economic data, it could be data on the election, it could be healthcare data. It could be data that you want to use to teach a self-driving car. So really, data is a very broad word. And but at the end of the day, the skills needed to analyze and get useful information and make an informed decision rely on the same core programming skills and statistical techniques that you can learn in general. And that's also what excites me about data science, because you can start learning from a lot of different people with very different interests when you look at the ideas, the core of data science skills. Now, in addition to knowing the basic programming techniques and inferential thinking techniques, one will also need to think about understanding its limitations. What data science has as its limitations, because when you look at data, you have limitations on what you can predict, and also issues that can come up with bias in the data, or privacy and ethics issues in the data. So all things that are part of what a data scientist has to think about. So I'm really excited to teach a data science course for the first time next year. I'm still learning myself, and I can't wait to learn today from our panelists. So yeah, I think that with that, I would like to pass it on to our panelists, and maybe Jenna, you want to introduce the panelists, and then we can get started?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here because I've got all of our panelists right here from UCSB. We have Anton De La Fuente, who's a linguistics major, Ramtin Taranji, stats and data science, and Zoe Holzer, who's statistics and applied probabilities. We're excited to have them here today with us. With that, I'm going to go ahead and start the panel, and I'm going to ask the panelists questions. Now, how we had it set up was that we asked the groups, the Cal Poly group and the UCSB group, to have one person represent answering a question for the sake of time, but we might have a little bit more time to be able to hear from our three individual panelists today since we don't have our Cal Poly folks. So, however, we'll be a little bit flexible with the answering. But the first question that we did ask them to think about answering is, oh, we have a rep from Cal Poly here. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Welcome. Awesome. Good. Are you willing and ready to represent Cal Poly today?
Yeah, I'm not sure where the other fellows are. I think it must have just gotten really busy and lost track of time. But yeah, I'm here. Yeah, willing to answer
Okay,
questions.
excellent. All righty. I'm going to start with UCSB since you just got on. You can get yourself sort of settled in a little bit. We're starting our panel here and asking questions on our first one here. So UCSB folks, how did you first get interested in data science? Whoever, did you have somebody designed to answer that question? Already decided?
I can answer.
Okay.
Hello. I got into statistics and data science mainly because I actually really liked my statistics class at SBCC. I actually transferred from there in the fall. And I don't know, I just like, I had a really good professor, and he really got into like how it can be used in like a lot of the complex things you don't think about when you think about your statistics class, like you know, you can use data analysis on like very important and impactful topics. And I personally really I really like a lot of fields. Like I really had no idea which one I wanted to do. So statistics is awesome because you can use the skills you learn in statistics and data science on pretty much everything you're interested in, because there's always data nowadays, there's always information, and it's just about knowing how to work with the information out there.
Thank you. Does anybody else from UCSB want to answer that?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about that. So my experience getting into data science wasn't necessarily through the classroom, but instead, when I was younger, I used to play this video game called NBA 2K. It's basically like a basketball video game. And what I loved about this video game was that it took every single athlete and it quantified it into a number. And that just, you know, blew my mind when I was in elementary school. I'm like, how does this work? How does this happen? And they made this into a simulation game. And I just thought, wow, this is so cool. You know, I kind of want to do something like this when I get older. So, you know, as I went through my education, I'm like, okay, maybe statistics and data science is a way I could be able to do that. I could quantify the world around me into, you know, simple numbers. So that's how I really got into data science. I got through it more of a domain sort of way than rather a classroom setting.
Thanks. How about you, Anton?
Yeah, so I have actually a similar experience to Ramton. I'm very much into studying language and linguistics, and that's really the pathway that took me to data science because I also like quantitative thinking, and linguistics right now is taking a very quantitative turn. And at some point last year, I found out that I could sort of merge those two interests that I have and apply these quantitative computational methods to studying language and do NLP and stuff like that. And that's how I got into it.
Some people might not know what linguistics is as a major. Can you describe it a little bit?
Yeah, so it's basically the study of language as a science. So you can study a lot of things. You can study like phonetics, how do people produce speech sounds and stuff like that, or syntax, how do people organize words, how are words and phrases related to what people mean and stuff like that. And then a lot of work now is being done with huge data sets of different languages to see if there are any commonalities between them. Like, do languages have similar stress systems? Do they have, like, what commonalities do they have with syntactic systems and stuff like that? And you can also do stuff like discourse analysis, like that's a big thing right now, to find like ways to flag content in social media, like content that might contain hate speech and stuff like that. Yeah, so you can do a lot of things.
Super interesting. How about you, Rachel?
Hi. So yeah, I think how I got into data science was through my stat major. So I was originally business and then I switched into stats. And I took my first introductory to data science course in the spring. And we kind of learn all aspects of data science from like NLP to visualization, pandas, NumPy. And I think what I liked about it the most was how diverse it was, the interdisciplines of math, communication, statistics, and programming, as well as how there are so many different niches within data science. You can go more the AI and ML route, or you can go NLP or data analysis, or go the more journalism side. And there's so many different facets of it, which I really, really love. And I feel like there's so much you can learn. So that's probably like the big reason why I got into it, and just that there's so many opportunities that I could explore through research and internships and clubs. And it may not necessarily be classified as data science, but kind of turning it into your own data science project is something that was really cool.
Can you, for us lay people, tell us what NLP is? Because I've heard that said a couple times here today.
Yeah, so NLP is natural language processing, and that's kind of, for example, a common project is like looking at Twitter and analyzing the semantics of it. So it's like, is it a positive tweet? Is it a negative tweet? Is it neutral? And kind of gathering the emotions of the word. So that's an example of NLP. Yeah, NLP is like just the analysis of language.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's great. We did ask the panelists if they have some slides on or projects that they've worked on or are working on. Rachel, do you have any for us today, or should we move on to UCSB, or what do you think?
Sorry, did you say if I had any projects that I was working on?
Yeah, do you want to share about any projects, or do you have slides ready for that, or?
Oh, I don't have slides, but I could share one of the projects I worked on this summer.
Great.
So I did research with a professor through the electrical engineering department, and his project was focusing on the mental health and performance metrics of engineering students across the nation. So it was really interesting because we were 4 research assistants split up into different analysis, and I had kind of done like multiple logistic regression, seeing is there a relationship between a mental illness and certain engineering students. And that was my first research project, and it was really interesting to see all this data that was actual real data being collected and getting a quantitative metric out of it. So that was like my most recent and coolest project that I've done. Yeah.
Do you have an outcome you can share?
So for mine, I think there was definitely an association with depression and anxiety. That was the most significant one for engineering students. The data, it was all survey data, and that's, if you learn more about data science statistics, survey data is not the most reliable because you're self-reporting. So I'm not sure, after I ended the project, I'm not sure where it went, but from what I had analyzed, anxiety and depression were the most related.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing. Our UCSB folks who would like to share about a project or either now that you're working on or that you worked on before?
Gina, I just wanted to mention that I think there is one other student from Cal Poly that just arrived.
Okay.
Is it Risha? Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yeah, it's pronounced Richa.
Yeah,
Hi,
Richa.
Richa. Nice to
meet you.
see you. We're so happy
Hi.
you're here. Yeah, we're doing our panel, and so we'd be so delighted to have you join us on answering some of our questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, great. So hang on a second. We're going to have our UCSB students have a little slideshow that they're going to share. We might need to enable you to share your screen here. Yeah, I think you can share.
Okay, I can share. Sorry, I'm muted. I forgot how to present.
Oh, on the top right, it says present.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, who wants to go first? Oh, Zoe?
Yeah. Okay, so this is because I just transferred and had no idea I was gonna be in this major for very long. I haven't done a individual project myself. I'm hoping to do one soon. But this is actually, so for the fellowship, we're taking a capstone series, which is essentially a couple of classes where you get to learn how to go about projects in the real world. And so like our current quarter, we are learning basically about ethics in data science, as well as essentially how to build a project. So the project that we're doing is using wastewater to predict COVID-19. So essentially, we're using a model called SIR, which essentially tracks a susceptible population, a population that gets infected, and then the population that recovers, and that the size of each over time. And it also tracks something called a viral load, which is essentially how much of the virus is around at the time. So yeah, so this project that we're currently working on is we're analyzing data and finding the best formulas to predict these things over time. And considering we're in a pandemic, it's very cool to be doing a project that is so impactful. So, yeah.
Okay, so this is one of my projects, which I did for one of my linguistics classes, computational linguistics. And we were told to pick a data set, and I found this data set of to study natural language inference on Kaggle. And basically the idea is that there are pairs of sentences, right, which have some relationship with each other, which could be, they could be incompatible, like a man inspecting a uniform and a man sleeping can't be true at the same time, or they could be neutral to each other, or they could have some sort of entailment relationship, right? And they went on Mechanical Turk and asked people to categorize these sentences. And you have these 5 labels. And then there's this sort of like overall label, which is the label that most people picked. And my project was to sort of try to develop a model to see if I could, given these 2 sentences, predict the contradiction, neutrality, or entailment of them, which turned out to be very, very hard. And I didn't really succeed, but I thought it was interesting to share one of my, I guess, failures.
All right, so this is my project. What happened essentially was I really dislike traffic. So I decided, I'm going to write a project and figure out when's the worst time to drive. And so essentially, I had this 1 gigabyte file with over 2 million plus accidents in the United States. And I wanted to see when are the most accidents, where are the most accidents, how can I avoid them, what can I do, what are the best driving conditions to be in. So I took this 1 gigabyte file and I did this big data analysis on it. And essentially what you're seeing here is a heat map of accidents all over the US. When I did it, it was interactive, so you could scroll by hour and see how accidents change. And there was a few things that I noticed from it. The rush hour traffic, it's a very real thing. There's huge spikes during rush hour traffic in accidents. Also, it's very tough to drive on weekdays. When you compare weekdays and weekends, the amount of accidents are significantly different. And also, I was just looking over to see, which states have the worst traffic. And it was by far, California has the worst traffic out of any state in the United States. And then I started to notice a few things. There are like a few zip codes in California, just the zip codes, that have more accidents than several states, which was absolutely astonishing to me. And then I also, when people are asking, when are you going to use this in real life? I found the streets with the most accidents in California, and now I avoid those streets at all costs. I had a real life application for me, and I'm very happy that I did it.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic.
And then, yeah, I did one more project. So a lot of machine learning models are black boxes. You just send in your data and out comes your results. So I worked with a machine learning model. It was a relatively new type of deep neural network, and we wanted to see how well this model worked. So essentially what you're seeing is how the model interprets the original image into, individual parts. So we broke it down into 4 different parts, and it was cool to see how the machine learning model was able to break down this, just this picture of a sweater into 4 different unique parts. And yeah, these are, just data science projects a couple of other of our fellows did. My friend Matthew, he worked on batter point of contact analysis for NCAA D1 baseball players. I remember him telling me, he got to work with the players and show them how to hit the ball to maximize their exit velocity. I know someone else worked on analyzing worldwide suicide trends to determine causation. We also did predicting COVID-19 progressions across US cities with different social distancing policies. We also predicted malignant breast cancer tumors. We did a natural language inference model. Someone did a sentimental analysis on Yelp reviews. And the last person did a studying variation of music lyrics on Genius across both genres and artists. And I thought they were all very cool projects we should share with you guys.
And I think that's it for our presentation.
Thank you. That was wonderful. A lot of really exciting things going on. Richa, did you have something that you wanted to share as far as a project or that you're working on now or have worked on?
Yeah, I can share a couple things. I also was drawn to data science because of its like interdisciplinary potential. And so over the past 3 years, I've worked on projects in computer vision and health. But I think like the most impactful project that I'd love to share is what I worked on at my summer internship, and that was at Apple Health. And so I was a data scientist, actually working on the basically just working on like the Apple Watch sensors, and taking a look at those machine learning models, which basically determined whether, you know, the person wearing the watch had a heart condition or not. And so it's super important, like when you have a health model, to see how it performs across like different demographic groups and people who have, you know, different sorts of data, and just making sure that it works well and that it's interpretable, and really avoiding that that like black box sort of problem. And so I just thought that was really neat because I could talk to clinicians and sort of learn a lot about, you know, how the human body works, and then go back to the people who are actually working in the model and saying, hey, like, you know, these parts of your model like aren't interpretable and they need to be, if this model is going to be deployed. So that's just one project that I worked on that I thought was really cool.
How did you get your internship?
So I actually just interviewed at Cal Poly, at the career fair, and they were just really impressed by like the data science minor, and the program.
You're a data science minor. What's your major?
Computer science.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. We'll move on to our next question that we asked our groups, and that is, where do you see yourself, or how do you see yourself using data science in your future career? Now, we were talking earlier to Ramton, who is like, I'm just taking one day at a time here. And maybe that's true for most of you, but we just want to throw it out there. Any ideas or thoughts that you have about your future and using data science? And Richa, we've got you already here, so you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah. So I guess for myself, I sort of went on this path where I was doing data science projects in like natural language processing and like computer vision, and health data, just trying to really see what I liked. And so I think the unique thing about data science is that it really allows you to almost do research in any field that you want. So like my goal is to like get my PhD. And so I'm going to be applying next year. And I think that I want to sort of go into like robotics and see how, and really see, you know, how data science can be applied in like different health fields. So that's what I'm really hoping to do with data science in the future.
Nice. Rachel, how about you?
Yeah, for me, I'm really attracted to like the business side of data science. I feel like I would love to eventually work up to some like product management position on a data or software team. I'm still kind of figuring out my like specific niche interests within data science and like companies that I want to work on. I worked at for the earlier part of this year. I was also interested in the PhD route, but I think I'm just too burnt out from school, and I would just like to get started with a job. Yeah, for me, like I really thrive with working around other people and like using data to drive business decisions that create an impact for the company. So yeah, that's kind of the route that I see myself going into.
Super. Okay, Ramton, I'm going to give you a chance now to speak for yourself instead of me speaking for you here.
Yeah, honestly, it's just, you know, one day at a time. I hope I get to use this in the future. I want to work something in machine learning ultimately, but I just feel, you know, there's so much out there to explore, so many different domains to explore, that I'm not 100% sure on what I want to do, but I know I want to use machine learning in whatever I end up doing.
Super. How about you, Anton?
Yeah, so I basically have two broad choices that I can go for. One of them is working in NLP, as I mentioned earlier, because that's something I'm very interested in. And the other would be to go into linguistics research and apply these techniques directly there. And they're both sort of very related, so I think I might straddle the boundary for a while.
Great. Zoe?
Yeah, so I'm actually an anthropology minor. And I really like natural science fields such as geology, astronomy, and environmental science. So I'm really hoping someday to be able to use statistics and data science skills to help progress those fields, even though they, you might not necessarily think, these more humanitarian sciences with the analytics, but there's still, there's a lot of research on people. There's a lot of research on the environment and the planet. And, again, out of that comes data. And I would really like to be able to kind of combine these analytic ways of doing things with things that can really be impactful for the more humanitarian side of education and careers.
It's what I love about what you are all sharing is just how many interest areas there are that you could move into different spaces with data. It's very, very exciting and can be tailored to what it is that you love or what your interest area is. So thank you for sharing. It's great to have sort of this breadth that's represented here. What advice do you have for Santa Barbara City College students who want to learn more about data science? And do you want to go ahead and start, Zoe?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so honestly, my advice is do not be afraid of math and computer science. Like, I don't know. I know I talked to a lot of people. I'm actually a math tutor at SBCC. I've been doing that for about 2 years. And a lot of the students I work with, they hate math or they're scared of it, which, I get. Feel the same way. But it's like the further you go with it, and the more you work at it, the easier it'll be. Like, it's not a natural talent thing. It doesn't take a genius to do these things. Like, you can do them. It's just it takes time and effort. So, if you're willing to do that, the data science field is growing every day. So it's really worth it. I guess, yeah, just don't be scared of your math classes. Like, you can get through them and get to somewhere where you can focus on things using math as a tool for things that you really actually want to do.
Sounds like it brings math into real world experience, which a lot of times in the classroom it doesn't. Ramtin, how about you? Advice for Santa Barbara City College students.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate what Zoe said. It's going to be difficult doing statistics and data science, but at the same time, you got to put practice into it. You got to put work into it. So ultimately, my advice would be to, don't really give up. If you really enjoy doing statistics and data science, just keep going at it. I know there's, been countless nights, be like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, where I'm just like, oh, why doesn't my code work? Getting all these errors. And I honestly, you look at it a few days later and be like, oh my God, it was just this simple. I missed this colon or something so simple. So, I just want to reiterate, don't give up. If you really enjoy doing statistics and data science, you'll find a way to do it.
Thank you. Anton, I think you were saying something about how it sounds like you learned by maybe things didn't work out perfectly. So I think what Ramtin was saying, just keep at it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say that that's been my experience. I feel like I've learned a lot just by trying things that I didn't necessarily know how to do, but in trying to figure out how to do them, I learned a lot about both sort of the domain I was reasoning about and what tools to use. So I think my advice is just to try things download a data set and see what you can do with it, see what conclusions you can draw from it, and stuff like that. Yeah, I think just don't be afraid to try things, and if something seems daunting, just slowly go through it. And that's worked for me.
Great. Rachel, how about you?
My biggest advice is probably to talk to more people in the field. During quarantine this summer, like as I was getting interested in data science, Cal Poly doesn't have a super big, it honestly doesn't really have a data science department or community. Now with the fellowship, it has more of one, but over the summer, I would just message people on LinkedIn or find people at my school who were like involved some way or another in data science and just message them, ask them to chat. And I did probably like 40 to 50 of those calls in the span of like quarantine. And that really helped me not only see that there were people with bachelor's and PhDs kind of doing the same thing, kind of debunking this myth that you need a PhD to go down this route. There are people at various different companies doing different projects, people who started off in chemical engineering and now ended up in data science. And I feel like talking to more people will really help you figure out your interest in data science. And maybe it's not your thing and maybe you realize that, but hearing what people's experiences were really, really helped me. So I would like definitely like don't ever hesitate to reach out to someone just to chat for like 30 minutes over Zoom. With quarantine, it's made that like so much easier. So I would, yeah, just reach out and talk to as many people as you can.
Wonderful. Richa?
I would say the thing that really made me want to pursue data science, and I guess I think a lot of students sort of touch upon that idea of like motivation, like what are your motivations? And so what helped me was to really find like those problems that I just wanted to solve. And I would just say like find something that you're passionate about. Like if you're passionate about journalism, marine biology, you know, computer vision, film, just there's probably a data science problem to solve in that field. And so I have a lot of like other hobbies. And so I guess just finding a problem that I was interested in and then either just like working with a professor on it, or I'm actually just going to put a link in the chat. There's this website called kaggle.com and they have all these different like data science competitions and courses that you can do in so many different fields, like everything from bioinformatics to, you know, natural language processing. And so, yeah, my motivation would just be to like really think about like what sort of impact you want to have and what you want to really like change in the world, because you really can do that with data. And that's just like the power of data. So yeah, that's what really helped me. That's what sort of really gives me that motivation to just, you know, keep grinding away at those like really, really difficult problems.
A lot of really great advice from each one of you. I think it's so helpful. And related to that, I think Professor Franks, you put something in the chat that I thought would be fun for you to share with everybody. I didn't get to read it, but I saw the beginning part of it.
Sure, yeah. There's a quote that is pretty well known in my field in statistics, and it's that the best thing about statistics is that you get to play in everyone else's backyard. And I think that's a really nice summary of what we've been hearing today, because what's really meant is that all of these different fields, these different domains, biology, environmental science, social sciences, that's someone else's backyard. And as a statistician, I get to go in and hear about all of these interesting things from all of these different areas and the kinds of ways they think about analyzing and modeling that data.
Yeah, thanks. That's great. From here, I guess I'd just like to ask people if they have questions. You can go ahead and drop them in the chat. Does anybody have any questions for any of the students or our instructors here?
Not too many questions in the chat. Don't be shy.
You can raise
I
your
may
hand.
have also, there's another question about what we've learned through the fellowship. Maybe
Oh yeah.
no one has questions, we could go for that.
Oh, maybe I forgot about that one. what you've learned? Okay, go for it.
There's another question. It says, what degree does one need?
How about you could first answer the question that we skipped, because I think you were prepared for that one. How about you do that?
Okay. Well, for what I've learned a ton of stuff in in just 6 weeks. Maybe a little bit too much stuff, but honestly, it's been really cool. I now know how to do machine learning. I know how to manipulate larger data sets. I know that if my program is running for 10 minutes, it's okay. It's supposed to do that. So yeah, I've learned a ton of skills so far. And probably most interesting is fairness. So you can, we're talking about programming fairness into our models, because if you're getting data from society, that data will be biased in the same way that the society is. So you have to think about ethics within these models we're building. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Zoe. Go ahead now, Natalie.
Yeah, thank you, Gina. So yeah, there's actually a bunch of questions there. So one question was, what degree does one need? Is one of the first questions. Well, I guess it's more of a question for professors probably, or I mean, I guess students could try to answer that too. But I think right now, a lot of people think still that data science is more of a graduate degree, but really it isn't. You can get, with a bachelor's degree, you can achieve a lot. So I think, I don't know how well that answers that question. I don't know if anyone wants to add to that. About what
add on that a little bit, please. So also at UCSB, there's a few courses in data science where there are grad level courses that undergrads can take. So it's not like we're learning, much different stuff than graduate school. Maybe we'll cover 1 or 2 less topics in the undergraduate class and the graduate level class. So we have very similar experience, but, we are undergraduates who basically are almost doing the same thing as graduate students.
And I'll add a little bit to that, just based on my experience talking to recruiters. More and more, you're seeing that when places hire, they tell me they're not that interested in degree. They want to see evidence of your skills and evidence that you've looked at data before, analyzed data before, and have done some projects. So I think if you can do that, you definitely can get your foot in the door. It's really not necessary to have a particular degree. I think if you have a bachelor's or if you have a master's, that can help, but it's certainly not required. It's people want to see your skill set, and there's tons of famous examples of some of the richest people in the world right now are college dropouts, and they're in basically data science fields. So
not that you're recommending people to drop out.
No, I completely agree with Alex. So that really, you build your resume, that degree is only like one line on your resume. You build your resume with all your experience and projects and your what you've accomplished outside of your courses too. So we have another question here from Isabella. What career options are there for people in data science? Where do you work? What exactly do you do for your life? So I guess kind of examples of companies. Do some of the students want to share stuff? Otherwise, anyone wants to? There's on the website, actually, one place to start looking at things on the site, the Central Coast Data Science Partnership. we also have our sponsors that are helping with the capstone projects. That would be a place to start looking at what kind of companies hire data scientists. But really nowadays, I think there's data scientists in a lot of companies, pretty much any company. So for example, in business analytics, that is a very big area now to kind of help companies figure out the business, the direction that is really data science. So just companies that pretty much any company has some kind of business analytics to some degree, right? Anyone wants to add anything else to that question on where do you work?
I can add.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
You go first.
okay. Yeah, so I mean, I have not worked in the field yet, literally, but I've done a lot of, I went to a UCSB career fair recently and was asking, I went to, there are a couple, I went to a business one, I went to social work one, and I went to science and tech one. That's the nice thing about data science, is you can go to every career fair. And I asked them all, and pretty much every single place had data science positions, including, you know, the government. There's a lot of government jobs. You can work in, I know this from Google, but you can work specifically in companies that specialize in statistical analysis, or you can work in a company like iRobot, or, you know, something more tech related, or you can work in research. I think you have to be a bit more specialized, and you have to have quite a bit of experience to do that. And then also just even in companies like they were saying that you wouldn't think of, because even if they're not doing, you know, research or something, they still have customers who are probably purchasing and interacting, and they want to analyze those interactions. So you can work pretty much anywhere. There's many options. It's a very large field, growing field. And what you do in your life, I mean, I think you do a lot of programming, is my assumption, and talking with people about, you know, what they want out of their project and their analysis, and then building it for them.
I wanted to go off of that a little bit and just say that the best advice is probably to pick something that you're interested in and see then how you can apply those skills. Because even things you wouldn't expect, like there's a chess website called chess.com, and they employ a lot of data scientists to develop anti-cheating software, so they can tell if someone's cheating when they're playing and stuff like that. So even something like a small chess website employs data scientists.
Yeah, just
Great.
to add to that.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Just really quickly.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out what Zoe said, that, you know, there's definitely a lot of private companies that look to hire data scientists, but there's so many jobs in government research too, especially at national laboratories. And they do take like entry-level data scientists, and they also have like great internship programs. So I would definitely look there. I know like one of the closest ones to us that hires a lot of data scientists is Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and they have like a supercomputing, they actually have a program where you can like work with supercomputers and all kinds of really cool stuff.
Great. Thank you, Richa. So I think we had a couple more questions. Should we do one? We actually have a lot more questions. Let's see what's next. What draws the line between machine learning for AI and machine learning models used for data analysis? And then, is the UCSB data science program a good choice for someone wanting to enter a career in AI? So specifically about UCSB, I guess. Anyone wants to answer that one?
Yeah, I can talk about getting into AI from UCSB. I want to get into AI, machine learning, that kind of stuff at UCSB. But at the same time, it's going to be a little bit difficult because you have to take quite a few computer science classes to understand the inner workings of what happens in artificial intelligence. So, getting into those classes isn't very easy as a statistics major. At the same time, I got into those classes eventually. I was able to take them. And, having a computer science and statistics background makes you a very ideal and knowledgeable person in the field of machine learning and AI.
If I could just jump in, one thing I wanted to say for everyone is that one of the really confusing things about this field is all of the terminology. So you might be hearing people talk about machine learning and artificial intelligence and statistics, computer science, and wonder how they all kind of fit together. And I think that's because a lot of people are trying to solve some of the same problems, but coming from different fields. And so for me, machine learning is very much like statistics. It's just really something that grew out of the field of computer science, whereas statistics came more out of mathematics. And so sometimes a lot of what we end up doing is just trying to learn to speak multiple languages and really find out that these things aren't as different as we thought. And that's really challenging. That takes some time just to learn a new language, right?
Great. I guess we could probably take one more question and maybe wrap it up. What do you think, Gina? Sounds good?
Mhm.
So all great questions, and thank you for the answers too. So I guess here was one other question. Let's see. How competitive is the job market? That, I guess, well, who wants to answer that one?
I don't have any statistics on that from the Career Center, but my sense is that the job market is excellent, and it would be what might be considered a bright career with a bright, current future. So unless anybody senses there's something else, just because it's so broad and it's so hot, it's a hot career right now, basically.
I agree with that. And I would say, yeah, I mean, of course, you're going to have competition in any job application, right? But I think there's a lot more jobs in that field right now than in some other fields. So definitely. And then, yeah, I think there was one short last question that Nicholas Alexander asked. Did you guys submit a GitHub portfolio when you applied for the fellowship? That's a very specific question.
No.
No.
I think that there's definitely an option for you to like put down any your GitHub and any sort of like supplementary information, and then they also had you turn in your resume. And so for me, like my GitHub is on my resume, so that's like another. I think there's definitely a way to submit your GitHub if you choose to.
Great, thank you for sharing. All right, I think we should probably wrap it up then. Do you want to do that, Gina?
Okay, so I'll put on our last screen, and while I do that, I did want to say that the Career Center is available to help people with resumes if they're thinking about applying for that fellowship at any point. But anyway, here's the information that Natalie shared earlier on about some of the things that are happening soon or over the next few months. And we just wanted to say thank you to our faculty and to our panelists today. It was really great to have everybody show up and share their experiences. It was nice to have personalized experiences and encouragement from each one of you. So well done, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Very nice job. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so nice to see you, Zoe.
Real quick.
I know, it's been a while.
I know. I'm glad to see you're liking UCSB.
I am, yeah. I mean, not quite at UCSB, but doing it still.
That's great.
I had a really quick suggestion. If there's any way to maybe get like the participant list, like I wouldn't mind if you wanted to like share like our emails or information in case they like wanted to directly reach out to us for any questions.
Yeah, if you
Oh,
want to,
great.
if you want to put your emails in the chat, any of you panelists who are interested in being available, go ahead and do that, and I'll save the chat and can send it out to the participants.
Thank you, Rachi. Richa.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thanks.
Can also help if anyone at SVCC like wants to know what classes to take and stuff. I've been through all of them, so yeah.
Great.
Great. Thank
All
you.
right, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you, everybody.